Hi, folks. Steve Urban here. Today's episode of the Riderflex podcast is sponsored by Marketing 360. My good friend JB Kellogg and his team do such a fantastic job for us and so many other companies. Marketing 360 is the number one platform for small business, and it's everything you need to grow your business. If you need marketing support, I really encourage you to contact them at marketing360.com/Riderflex, and we'll add that link to the description of this episode for easy reference. And on today's episode of the Riderflex podcast, we have guest Chris O'Halloran. He's the founder and CEO at Takeoffs, a construction tech startup and web platform that is automating construction estimating and bill of quantities for builders and trade contractors, servicing the construction industry in the United States, Canada, and Australia. Really an inspiring story. I truly enjoyed my conversation with Chris, and I think you will too. Chris O'Halloran on the Riderflex podcast today. Chris, how you doing, man?
Yeah, good, Steve. How are you?
I'm awesome. I love that Australian accent you got. That's cool. Walking around Denver, anytime you walk in somewhere, everybody's like, "Oh, that guy's cool," right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it stands out. We say in Australia, mate, it stands out like dog's balls, right? So it's
I love it. I love it. I mean, you're just automatically, if you walk into a restaurant and you talk to the hostess and they're full, and you walk up and you go, "Hey, listen, table for four." She's like, "Oh, this guy's cool. I'm going to seat them down. I'm going to seat them right now."
it is a little bit of a secret weapon, I must admit. It's got me in places where I normally wouldn't get access to. But you know, you got to use the cards you dealt, right?
I like it. I like it. Hey, before we get into Takeoffs, your current company, will you tell the listeners just a little bit about Chris? Give them some personal stuff, where he grew up, some family stuff. Walk us through that early history, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so grew up in the Gold Coast of Australia. So that's southeast Queensland, subtropical, on the beach.
And, wow, nice.
Nice spot to live. Great place to grow up as a kid. You know, my dad, all my family from my dad's side is all tradespeople. So my dad was a carpenter. His dad was a stonemason, you know, and that sort of trade continued. So that was always destined for me, I guess. But I dropped out of school quite early in year 10. And my dad always said, you know, if I'll pay to go to any university you want to go to. And so I thought, great, I'll drop out of school. I was quite good at electronics as a kid. So my plan was to go and become an electronics engineer.
I see.
And when I dropped out of school, my dad said, "What are you going to do for rent tomorrow now that you're paying?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "You'll pay for university. Why don't you pay for me to go to college?" And he said, "No, that's not the deal. You know, you drop out of school, you now start paying rent. So an option said, you can come work for me if you want and work things out. I'll give you some money." And so I took that offer. And 6 months down the track, you know, I was halfway through, or 6 months into a carpentry apprenticeship. And, you know, that was a fun experience, you know, working with your father. We used to fight a lot, as, you know, son and father often do. But I learned a lot too. And he's still one of the best builders I've ever come across.
What now? Can I ask you real quick? Why did you want to drop out? Because you were just sick of school, or did you get in trouble, or what? Did you get kicked out? Like, give us some juicy details there.
Look, I wasn't good at it. I wasn't good at school academically. You know, I could pass exams, I could pass tests without doing any work on it. But I only just passed. I'd get a C average back in those days. Was a pass. I never excelled. And I just didn't myself to school. So I was bored there. Personally, I think I've got ADHD that was never diagnosed. So my brain runs at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and I just couldn't sit still at school. So just leaving, I just left. Year 10, which is halfway through our secondary school in Australia, is when you can leave.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. I see. Okay.
Yeah, and after I'd finished a carpentry apprenticeship, I always planned to join the army. So I actually had a big argument with my dad one day, and called the army hotline and said, "I want to join." And next week I was in the army. all going through the process to get in.
Okay.
And I spent 4 years as an infantry soldier in the Australian Defence Force.
Wow. All right. Okay. Very good. And with your dad and you, so you had a little falling out right there, or did you make up pretty quick?
Oh no, we made up pretty quick. It was just a blow up on the day. I packed up my mail bag and left. And I remember vividly that particular, we had to go over a barge, an old ferry, to get to the job site. And it was when I was on the barge waiting for the barge ferry, I just thought, I'm going to ring the number. I rang up and joined.
Wow.
And during that period, I'd only planned to do 4 or 5 years, and that's what I did. But I did my builder's license at night. So while I was in the Defence Force, I continued on that education in the construction field. And
Okay.
so that meant that, not only did I go in the Army as a slightly older person, not 17, I was about 20 at the time. And, but I also left with a fully qualified as a licensed builder, not just
Gotcha.
carpenter.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So you get out of the service, and did you have a plan, or did you just be like, hey, Dad, I'm moving home?
No, it was that sort of, once I joined the Army, it was out.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
moved out. They shipped me around the country and really pushed me into being an adult pretty quickly, joining the
Yeah.
Army.
Right.
Which is, looking back, was a great exercise.
Good.
And so, at 20, I'd moved out and was starting my life pretty much.
Great. All right. And then walk us through your early career after the service.
Mate, after that, I got into construction supervising for some like window companies, and that was sort of, the path to getting to a builder in Australia is you have to supervise and you have to do these sort of steps to get there. So that was my path that I'd when I was a carpenter, I looked up at the supervisor because he used to turn up on job sites and say, hey, do this, do that, do that. And I thought, I might just have his job. So that was my, my thought process. How do I get that guy's job? And
Gotcha.
and so that's what I left and did the army. After the Army, I did that. And then a few years into doing this for a company called Geldwin, actually an American window manufacturer, largest in the world.
Okay.
Started to get involved in some of their internal improvement projects. Just doing, coming up with ideas that would improve the business, and then getting the leeway to go and implement those projects. And then I started thinking, hey, this is a cool job. What is this called? Oh, that's called project management. I might go do that for a living. And so I went deep into project management, and I got a diploma in project management, and then I started to look for project management jobs.
Can I ask you real quick? Can I ask real quick, Chris? Yeah. Those leadership skills of like grabbing a group of people and like I say, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do, and I'm going to lead us this way. Was that early on for you, high school, even before you dropped out of school, and when you were in the service? Was that did you just naturally gravitate towards, hey guys, we're going this way? And I okay.
Yeah, never an aggressive leader, but I'd always think that, always had ideas and different ways of approaching things. If there was a strong leader, I wouldn't, fight for that leadership position. I would certainly follow along and raise ideas, but I was never quiet or one to sit back and just follow the status quo.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, cool. So now you're off and running in a project management career. All right, cool.
And so that started in construction, so doing project management for construction companies. And then this is now timeline, this is sort of early to mid 2000s. And so technology was booming, IT was booming. And so big enterprises were pulling in project managers from all sorts of fields. So I got pulled into tech, which I thought I'd missed a tech wave. I thought I missed computers. I should have done that. I would have made heaps of money. I missed that opportunity. I went into construction,
Okay.
Good move, Chris. But I got the second wave as a project manager. And so I started working for, fairly large companies like airlines and governments and mining companies to deliver technology projects. So everything from mobile apps when they started to come out, right through to larger web developments, data migrations, marketing, automation and cloud, and all these buzzwords that came out through the last 10 years, I'd sort of been involved in.
Wow. Now that must have been different. Leading construction guys through a project versus leading developers and engineers. That's a different personality set.
Completely. And in fields and every project's different, right? So everything was a new thing. Like
Yeah.
I'd never done that before. I didn't know what I really was doing. But that variation and change satisfied that ADHD brain. So it gave me a lot of different things to focus on. And I just kept going back to the process. I knew the project management process. I knew how to deliver from an idea and get it to where the business wanted it to be. I also had the approach of, I know what the business is trying to achieve, so I could bridge the gap from that technical speak to some point up to that executive speak and translate between those two layers. And I just go back and say, look, I know the process. I can get you from here to here. I can't code. I'm not an engineer, but I can certainly deliver what you need from a business perspective.
Well, on the communication piece you just mentioned, filling that gap between software engineers and executives or stakeholders, usually those two groups have a hard time talking to each other, right? Or relating. Sure. And it takes a great project manager with excellent communication skills to keep that clean. So yeah, great experience for you during this time. Obviously, that's cool.
It was cool. Yeah, it was cool. In 2008, a company I was working with, they went through a downturn in the financial crisis, and were looking for voluntary redundancies. Okay. So I actually took a voluntary redundancy in 2008, and then set up a consulting business and started doing project management as a consultant for myself.
So there's the first sign of being an entrepreneur. Boom, you set up your own.
A little push I needed, right? Just to do it.
Okay, right there, folks. Right there for the listeners. Right there. If you find yourself in a transition period for whatever reason, maybe it was a layoff, maybe the company went out of business, whatever. Take advantage of that, and if you got that entrepreneurial bug, go for it, because that's exactly what Chris did right there. Okay, perfect. So you're like, okay, cool. Did you get a little severance deal? You had a little cash, and you're like, okay, I got a severance.
Got a little severance deal, got a little package. Cool. I negotiated pretty hard on that. They gave me the initial package. I said, no, I'm not accepting it. And they doubled it. So there's another tip. Actually doubled it. And,
awesome.
And that gave me, a good 4 months of runway to go and start my own consulting gig.
That's your seed money. That was your seed money for your consulting firm. Awesome. Yep. Awesome. All right. What was it called? What was the company called? What'd you call it?
Striking Group, project management consultancy.
Love it. All right. Very cool. Did you get that URL? Was that available on GoDaddy when you looked that up?
It was at the time. Striking Group. Striking was because, projects are unique and lightning strikes once. And that was the kind of concept behind it. We deliver unique projects, unique outcomes.
Love it. Love it. Now, can I just ask, are you any married, kids, any family at this time, or are you by yourself?
Yeah. No, I was married. I had a 2-year-old son at the time too. So certainly pressure. Had my own house. So I was paying a mortgage. Yeah.
Let's just let that sink in. Okay. So you come home, you're like, hey, honey, yeah, by the way, they're having a change at the company. I'm not going to work there anymore. And I'm starting my own business. By the way, you got a 2-year-old playing in the living room with toys. Yep. And she's like, okay, well, how much is your new business going to make? And you're like, I don't know.
That's right.
Love it. Oh man. Were you, you had to be a little bit scared, right? Or were you? Talk to me about it.
I've always been fairly, the opposite to risk averse. I'm always happy to take on risk.
Okay. All right.
And just always had an attitude that it'll be all right. Look, at the end of the day, I was a carpenter. If I had to, I could go back and build a house.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Right.
That sort of safety blanket that I knew in my mind. Even today, if I had to, I could go back and just start building houses again, and I'm going to be okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, the first contract I ever got was actually with, I'd worked for a signage company and as a project manager, and the former MD of that left, and he sold the business and moved on to something else. And we reconnected about a couple of years later, and as he was hiring a project manager and on contract. So I actually flew down to his office, and he said, hey, you used to work for me years ago, didn't you? I said, yeah, I did. Never really met him because it's quite a big company, but he knew of me. And he said, okay, what's your hourly rate? And I said, yeah, I knew nothing. I didn't even know what my hourly rate was going to be. And I stood out and said, it's $100 an hour. So mid 2000s, $100 an hour, not a bad.
That's good. It's a good number.
Right?
Yep.
And he goes, that's the highest. That's double. That's double than what anyone else has quoted me. And I'm thinking, oh, shit. What do I do now? And I was quiet for a second. I thought, yeah, that sounds about right. And then I just closed it. Just went quiet. Yeah, sounds about right. Like that. And
I love it.
There was about a minute or two of just dead silence, right? And he goes, would you do 90 an hour? I said, no, I wouldn't.
Oh, you said no.
I said, no, I'll do 90 an hour if you pay me $10,000 bonus at the end if I deliver it on time and on budget. And he goes, done.
Done. Deal. Love it. Oh, that's such good advice. By the way, that is a negotiation tactic, is silence. Silence can work. Just say nothing for a few seconds or even a minute. It can help you in negotiations. Great point. Okay, cool. Now you're funding your business. Now your firm is just you at this point. No employees yet, right? Okay.
Just cool. Me. I delivered this project and we came in on time and actually under budget. And, we became good. I became good friends with Mark, who ran that company. And he confided in me later, said, look, that project was business defining for us. Had you have failed it, we would have failed the business. And we became good friends. And every other project from that point on was just mine. I didn't have to quote it. I just did it. And that really started the consultancy, that relationship.
Okay, very good. Okay, now, so then you're at some point, do you go back and I'm looking at your profile. I just want to make sure I understand, because I studied your profile, getting ready. Did you go back at some point and take a regular W-2 job again, or did you always stay as a 1099 contractor?
Occasionally I took normal employment throughout periods, only when it made sense.
I see.
But I kept the consultancy open, and I would do stuff on the side. But if the company just wasn't set up for contractors and they wanted employees, I would take them, but they would still only be for fixed term engagements. So typically to deliver a certain outcome or a certain project.
Okay, so when you worked for Virgin Australia, you were an employee there?
No, I was a contractor.
No. Oh, were you? Okay. All right. All right, so you're moving along, you're doing your thing. Meanwhile, now you're an entrepreneur because you started your own business. And so that I'm guessing that entrepreneurial bug is kind of like digging around down in your gut. And, tell us how you eventually got to where you're at now with starting Takeoffs. Kind of how did that develop? And did it have something to do with that first company you founded? I think you tried something else, right? Grapple or something like, go ahead.
2 other startups I tried.
Okay.
A company called Grapple and a company called eJetty.
Okay.
Neither of those worked. And I learned different things in each of those. Happy to dive into those if there's value there. But essentially, yes, I've started a couple of startups before, so I always like to start things on the side.
Okay, gotcha.
Again, ADHD. I like to be busy, and at the detriment of my wife, I'd rather sit there and tinker away at stuff than sit down and have a conversation.
So you kept doing your thing, contracting, running your consulting firm, and you started a couple of things on the side and learned from those. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and Takeoffs was a typical example of that. Started out as a side hustle, and the challenge of being a contractor consultant is your pay is up and down, very lumpy. So how do you build some side businesses that can level that out a little bit? And that's kind of how I thought about it.
Gotcha.
Came from I'm a builder. I didn't like doing estimating back when I was building, and I thought surely if there's an app that just allows you to upload your blueprints and then it spits out an estimate, that's what I'd want. So I sort of built that, on just over a couple of weekends, And
But how did you build? But you're not a developer. You're not a software engineer. How'd you
I'm
do
not,
that?
no. So, but I can edit some HTML. I
Okay.
can go
Okay.
through and I bought a HTML template for a website, and I did some editing on that. And then I just connected up with a Typeform back end. So this is 2017. So it looks like you were chatting with a chat bot before
Yeah.
chat were a thing.
Yeah.
And so it looked like it has this cool chat interface, and the builders could just chat with it, the contractors, upload their blueprints, and then I'd send it off to an estimator, and he'd do it, or she'd do it, and then I would just take a clip of that and charge it back to the
I see.
GC. And so it was all manual process, but it proved that, hey, builders wanted this,
Right.
this concept. And
Gotcha.
within, I think, I made about $3,000 or $4,000 that weekend. I launched it, and within
What?
oh,
Hold on. Let me just take a pause right there. You launched this tool that contractors can be like, hey man, here's my blueprints.
Yep.
Spit me back an estimate. You grabbed a hold of it. You ran it through your system there. It was a little bit manual. You sent back the quotes to them and everything, and they paid you.
Yep. And they paid up front.
And they paid up front. And you're
Yeah.
like, you're thinking to yourself, you're looking at your wife going, I just created this tool and we made $3,000 in the first weekend.
Yep.
And then you're like, I think I might have something here. So no competition, no other like app or anything on the market doing?
There's small consultancy firms that will do it, like an old retired estimator does it from home. His website looks terrible. He can only do 1 or 2 jobs a week. And I thought, how do we appify it and make it a bit more modern, streamline the process?
Wow.
Be able to handle it more at scale.
When you made that first 3,000, go ahead. Within a month or two, go ahead.
Within a month or two, sales coming through.
Wow. Can I ask you this? When that first weekend, so you didn't actually have Takeoffs as a separate entity or an LLC when you that first weekend, you just had them run you just ran the cash through your consulting LLC.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. At what point did you say, holy shit, I got something here, and this is actually a company that I need? Like, when did you do that?
When it was replacing my consultancy income, and I could make about 20K a month as a consultant, but that was about it. And that was me working pretty hard,
Okay.
And that this is coming at 20K a month, and I'm making good margin on it. So I could see a pathway to replacing my income and continue to grow.
Wow.
And that's when I started to think, okay, there's some scale here. But then you start to think, how do we really grow it at scale? Mm-hmm. And that means we need to be able to do takeoffs quicker, faster, and better. So we started to explore, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and how can we do that without humans? Because my biggest pain point there, I couldn't hire estimators quick enough, and I couldn't train them quick enough.
I see.
And so how do we start to remove those from the process? And I went through at least 15 artificial intelligence engineers that said, no, it couldn't be done. Couldn't be done.
Really?
I want it done. I need it done. And it found some people that actually could do it, and started to invest there.
Wow.
It was, I used to listen to a podcast, so I still do, a startup podcast, because I was always into it. Twist This Week in Startups.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so it's done by Jason Calacanis in San Francisco, and he talks to founders and startups. And it was on one of his podcasts, he said, hey, email me. And he put his email address in. And then he said, you'll get a bounce back saying I don't read the email because I'm too busy, but I do. And so I emailed him. And I said, hey, Jason's launching, no reply. Ooh. And then I emailed him back a month later. I said, hey, Jason, Chris again. Here's, just want to give you an update. Here's my revenue now since last month. I emailed you. Oh, by the way, I noticed you're bringing a conference to Australia, to Sydney. I'm going to try and come along to that. No response. Third email. Hey, Jason, I bought a ticket. Here's again my revenue. I'm going to try and grab you for dinner. No response. Fourth email, Jason, upgraded my ticket to a VIP. I'm definitely going to come and hound you. And then he replied back and said, impressive growth. Here's CC'd my team. You should come and pitch me.
Awesome.
Went down and pitched him. And then he ended up investing in the company.
What? Oh, so was that your first investor?
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time you took on cash right there.
Yep.
Were you pinging him because you wanted the marketing from that, or were you thinking he might be an investor?
I wanted him to invest. So when I started thinking this needs some serious technical talent to build out the business that I want it to be.
I see.
I need Silicon Valley money and I need Silicon Valley talent.
Okay. All right. So you at that point, by the way, had you ever built a pitch deck or put any financial modeling together? I mean, how did you just like, I'll figure it out.
Modeling as a project manager. You know,
okay.
I can work Excel. You know, I have a reasonably good business understanding, so I can talk business stuff,
right?
You know, not
right.
technical. So you know, I downloaded a bunch of startup slide pitch decks.
Love
and
Love it.
Models.
Of course, all you had to show him was, hey, here's my revenue, and by the way, my expenses are like super tiny. So you know, I mean,
my margins are like 80%. You know,
yeah, my margins are like 80%. How much do you want to invest?
And I was like, yep. Cool. So
had you drawn up, had at that point, had you said, okay, well, I think my valuation is this and I'll sell units to you for this amount, or had
so
you
the
like
good part about Jason is he has all that. He also runs an accelerator in San Francisco.
Okay, gotcha.
They have standard deals. And so what I had to do was flip the company into the US, become a US entity. I had to make it a real business, pull it out of my consultancy firm. So that was a process, and you know, creating a US entity from Australia is not easy.
It's not. Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. Okay, all right.
So a bank account without being here.
I see. Okay, now when he invested, how old was the business when he invested?
So that was mid 2018. It was a year and a half.
Year and a half old. Okay, so
and still a side business, still a side hustle.
I see. All right. Well, what was okay? Do you mind sharing revenue? I don't know if you want to share that or not. Can you tell me what the business did in 2019, for example?
2019, we did close to 300,000 in revenue.
Great. And how many employees?
Just me and some freelance estimators, about 8 estimators.
Wow, freelance estimators. And what about developers, tech guys, software engineers?
No, I still didn't have tech. It was once, maybe halfway through 2018, I hired a Ukrainian engineer to build out more of a platform.
Okay.
And you know, just because the cheaper than hiring in Australia, US, and the talent.
I see. So last year, 300 grand. You got one employee, and you got some outsourced stuff, estimators. Your margins are. I mean, damn, your margins are huge. That's awesome business. I mean, why are you still doing the consulting on the side?
But now I'm not, you know, now I'm not. So I shut all that down and moved over to the US. And
I see. That's why your LinkedIn profile still says Australia, but you live here.
Yeah. And now we've got a team of 12 people that are full time.
Oh, you do. You do. So you hired people in 20. You just went through some hiring then.
Yeah, we only just closed a larger round of capital. We haven't quite closed it, so I can't disclose the amount, but we have raised significantly more money than the initial money Jason put in. He actually put in some more money, so we'll put a press release out in the next couple of months. But
great.
Yeah, we managed to then. I spent 6 months in San Francisco pitching.
Wow. What was that like? What was that like, Chris? I mean, I'd like to have seen that. You got any videotapes of you pitching in San Francisco? That'd have been awesome because I can just see. That'd be great.
I'll probably get some stuff. Yeah. So I'm a tenacious prick, right? And that's one of the skills that I realize I've got is tenacity. And you know, what I realized in my first startup was that I brought on a co-founder that I thought could be the sales guy, because I'm an introvert naturally. I'm an introvert.
Okay.
And I step out of being an introvert to do my job as a project manager, as a CEO of a company. And but on nights and weekends, I'll go and recluse and read a book. But what I realized was that I actually enjoy the sales process and I enjoy selling. And so I took pitching as it's just selling
I
to
see.
investors. And
I see.
I like to sell, so I like to pitch. I pitched 90 VCs. I pitched.
Wow.
80 of them said no.
Wow. Wow. I really appreciate you sharing that information. Everybody thinks that raising cash is, not that hard and you do a few pitches and somebody writes you a check. It doesn't go that way.
Doesn't. Jason said to me, he goes, you'll pitch 80 to 100 VCs over 6 to 12 months. 30 will take meetings. You'll whittle that down to maybe 5 that will invest. And I honestly thought that's the average, but that's not going to be me. I'll do it in half that. Typical entrepreneur thought pattern.
Yeah.
And I went back through the numbers because I did a presentation on it last year, and went back through the numbers. And I pitched just under 100. 80 said no. Wow. 10 took second and third, fourth meetings and went deep into diligence, and some pulled out, and then others came in. And you realize so much has to align for that to work. The funds need to be the right size. They need to be the right timing. But there can't be any competitors in their portfolio. They've got to like you as a founder. They've got to like the way you're approaching the business. Some said no because I had offshore engineers. We only invest in San Francisco-based teams. I said, okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, thanks for wasting my time. But that's you just got to okay, it's not going to work. I'm not changing the business model just to match your investment thesis. So let's
And did you have all different types of stuff coming at you, like convertible debt and loans, straight equity, like you had all kinds of? I'm sure you had all kinds of different offers.
All different offers, and at the end of the day, you take the offer that whoever's writing the biggest check, you take their offer. If they want equity or convertible,
whatever.
To me,
doesn't matter. Now,
you need cash.
When you got this round, is it just from one PE or one VC firm, or is it from a mix? Is it like a bunch of people involved, or how did you do? I don't know. I know you can't share too much detail, but my main question here is: are you going to have to deal with a lot of different people, or is just this one group?
No, so we've got 5 key investors.
Okay.
One of those runs through what they call a syndicate. And so that syndicate has about 200 investors in it.
Yeah.
So I have 200 investors through there, but only one investor on the cap table that represents that syndicate. So I have the benefit of hundreds of people that want to help me, but I only need to report to 4 or 5 investors.
Absolutely. And that's a key tip for the listeners. And I really want to encourage people, be real careful about how far you extend your cap table with investors and equity holders. Because if you're early stage like Chris is, and you're trying to manage 50 investors, and that's 50 different phone calls and people you're trying to email, that is a nightmare. I would not recommend that. So 4 or 5 contacts that you have to kind of manage, so to speak, at your stage. That's manageable.
And also, if you're going for second, later rounds, more institutional venture capital, they're not going to invest if the cap table is over 12, 15 people.
That's exactly right. Yep.
There's too much for them to manage. So they'll want to exit out a bunch of investors to even clean that cap table up. So you do have to manage that cap table. Something I never even considered. It was completely foreign to me going in. I'd never done that experience before. But you learn on the way.
You're a quick study, though. Yeah, I imagine you being a quick study. Like, okay, somebody tells you, like, hey, this is how this works, and you're like, okay, I got it. Yeah. Are you still in control? I mean, when this round closes officially, is Chris still in charge of the quote, voting control, or did you have to give up control yet?
So I still, there's other people on the board now, but I've still got the majority of the shares in the company. Okay. So it's still fully in control. And the investors that we've got are very mature. They're very sophisticated. They're very hands off. They let me run the business.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing you got to be careful with. I guess it's good to have active investors, I guess, right? But you don't want somebody that's like calling you every day saying, "Hey, why is the Verizon bill this much this month?"
That's right. I mean, the board's not there to run the business. They're there to check in and make sure they're governance, right? To make sure that you're not. I didn't go and buy a Ferrari and a Lamborghini for myself. The money's been spent wise, and
that's great. So would you call this a seed round? Is that what you're identifying this as?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. Congratulations, by the way. Really, I mean, that's a major accomplishment. I mean, it must have been nice though to be able to pitch. It wasn't like you were pitching an idea. You were pitching something that said, "Hey, man, by the way, I got 300 grand in revenue right now. I got no debt. I got no debt. I haven't taken on any cash. By the way, look at my gross profit." I'm surprised
Yeah.
I'm surprised you had 80 no's. I mean, why would they?
Well,
Looking at
because you know they all invest in certain types of businesses.
okay,
Some wanted us to be a SaaS business. Others
I
wanted
see.
us to be, you know, enterprise software. And I
I
said,
see.
we're not that. You know, we're ultimately a building materials marketplace, and that's what we are. You know, so we had to find investors that liked and understood those businesses. But also, I had questions like, so what's a takeoff? Is that an Australian term? You know, is it the same here in the US as Australia? And I'd say, yeah, it is actually. It was one of our research we did when we kept the name was, is it the same in America?
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha. Okay. Very, very
also,
good. Now, go ahead, sir.
because it's quite a nuanced business. So unless you understand construction, you don't really understand the pain point of doing estimating and doing takeoffs and all these things that go into it. So, you know, a lot of it's explaining the pain point that we're solving because it's not immediately obvious as a consumer business would be.
Mm-hmm. I see. I got you. What about like proprietary, patented, special secret sauce stuff? Like, are you worried about any of that, or what about the competition? What about somebody seeing this going, "Oh, we can hire a bunch of software engineers and build something just as good"? Blah blah blah. What's your thoughts on all that?
I mean, yeah, we have competitors. Surely they've sprung up since we've launched and gone loud with what we're doing.
Okay.
And then at the end of the day, everyone takes the problem solution different. You know, we've got our own approach to the market. We've got our own approach to how we're defining our business model, and the market's huge, right? Construction, it's massive.
I mean, it's
So
massive.
there's probably enough room there for a few players anyway.
Yeah. Good
You
point.
know, yeah, I want it all, but hey, you know, we'll take 40% of it. You know?
Oh man, I love it. So now you got 12 employees, man, for a long time. I mean, you had all that experience as a project manager and leading people and coaching people and mentoring people. So years of experience doing that, which is a nice transition into being a CEO of a company that has 12 employees. It's probably super natural for you to lead that team, but it is your first time with employees that, you know, that are yours. When you're looking for people now to join your company, you know, one of the things we do at Riderflex, our big thing is we try to pitch matching candidate personalities to company culture so that the styles match, you know, so to speak, to at least as much as we can. That's kind of the thing we focus on. How about you, you know, with Takeoffs, like when you're interviewing people right now and you're looking to hire somebody, what are you looking for? Assuming their skill set, let's just set the skill side aside for a second and assume that whoever you're interviewing has the skill set you're looking for. How are you determining whether or not to hire them beyond that? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as a small company, it's hard to know what our culture is, right? So hard to define cultural fit because I don't know what the culture is.
Right. And it's changing. Well, 12 brand new people. It's transitioning right now.
That's right. You know, and it's all in that storming phase. You know, people are still working how to work together.
Yeah.
And so I try and look for people that are aligned to our mission and are passionate about what we're trying to do, because ultimately I need people that are going to work harder than they've ever worked before.
You got that right.
But the upside is huge, you know, and, you know, there's opportunity there to get, you know, options in the business and, you know, and share in that equity uplift. And so it's really about who's going to go above and beyond and just do stuff that needs to be done. You know, like my CTO, I've got a photo of him mopping the floor, you know, because there's some dirt on the floor. And that's just what we do. Everyone just gets in and does everything, you know, because it's such a small team, we need to. And yes, the skills have got to be there. But I look for people that are just going to work hard and want to deliver the mission.
Can wear many hats. I call people that join a company of your size, they got to be scrappy. I like that word. They got to be nimble. They got to be able to just do whatever. Like, hey, I know your title says, you know, CFO, but I need you to come with me to this dinner tonight and shake hands with this person. I'm trying to close a deal. Like whatever. Like, I mean,
100%. That's it.
Yeah, you got to be that type of person to survive in that environment. And I would also say, I think to your point, you kind of touched on this. if you join a company like Takeoffs, you're probably going to have a chance to grab some equity somehow, like options or whatever. Most of the time, you're going to have a chance to maybe get a little bit of ownership or something early on. Now, you might have to come in for a salary that maybe is a little beneath what you would get at a Fortune 500 company, maybe. But you also get to help build something from the ground up almost.
Right.
And maybe gain ownership in the company. That's the attractive piece about being part of a startup, is you get to go in and you get to be involved in everything. It's, even at Riderflex, we have about 10 people full time. And I was just talking to my co-founder, Scott, about this. And I was just telling him, we were talking about a specific person in the company. And I said, this employee we're talking about would never have an opportunity to be involved in the things they're involved in at a Fortune 500 company at this stage in their career.
That's 100% true.
It's just there's so many things you can experience and learn and be a part of that is going to just catapult your knowledge, tenfold, if you join a company of this size. Anyway, I'm getting off of you can tell I'm passionate about the topic too, because it's just a wonderful opportunity for people to join a situation that you're in. They're just going to learn so much.
And it's hard work, but it's fun. You can have fun too at the small.
Yeah.
You don't have all the rubbish you got to deal with when you get over 50 employees from a HR perspective, and all these things you have to start doing.
Right.
All that's gone, right? And if we want to go for lunch, we go for lunch. We can do those things. But if we need to work nights and weekends to get a deployment done, we do that.
Yep, that's awesome. Oh, that's great. I'm really happy for you to get to this stage and get to be hiring employees. And this is a fun time to be in right after you raise some cash and you're hiring your brand new team. That's exciting stuff. Let me ask you a few questions. We got about just a few minutes left here. I want to ask some questions around, the courage to start something and the scary times. A lot of our listeners are aspiring entrepreneurs, people with ideas, people that want to do their own thing. But quite honestly, they got the 2-year-old crawling around on the living room floor. They got the mortgage, they got the car payment. They don't have a lot of cash in the bank, and so they have an idea, but they're scared. They're worried. They're like, oh, well, okay, if I quit my job, what if that doesn't work? For anybody listening that wants to do their own thing, but they haven't taken the leap, what would you tell them today?
Yeah, I mean, my first startup, Grapple, was an enterprise software. We invested all of my consulting money, all of my partners' consulting money into it, and couldn't sell it. Right, we couldn't get one customer. The next startup I started was a eJetty, an online marketplace for pontoon rentals, and that started to get traction. But the take rate for me was only about $10 a week in profit per jetty we rented out. So just the market was too small to really make a big business. Mm-hmm. So when I started Takeoffs, my rule in my head was this thing needs to generate cash from day one. It needs to be low cost to start, and and unless it can stand on its own 2 feet and grow organically, I'm not going to do it. And so I thought of let's see, the cheapest way that I can get this to market, and that was register a domain for $15, download a template that looked like the website I wanted it to be for $15, and then pay for a Typeform subscription at $50 a month, and that was it. That was it. That was my cost. It was under $100 to start it.
Love it.
And and then I charged up front because I needed the cash. This thing needed to, so. And I started like $200. I just kept putting the pricing up because I didn't want. I think quick and move quick. I don't like to overanalyze things. I can sit at a spreadsheet and try to work out the ideal price, equilibrium, elasticity for how to charge for this, or I can just charge $200 and see, and then keep putting it up until people stop paying for it, and then I bring it back down. And that's what I did. That's what I did. And so
I love it.
And started on the side, so it reduced some of that risk for me.
Do you believe, by the way, that's a great point right there I want to touch on. Do you encourage people generally to keep their day job and start something nights and weekends and see if it can generate 100%. Cash? Do you encourage that most of the time?
Yeah, I mean, like the good chance most things are going to fail, right? If you look at the stats, most startups are going to fail. So how do you de-risk that? from your own personal perspective. Keep your job,
Mm.
you know, and see if it works. You just don't know.
See if you get traction. And
Yeah.
the other thing I noticed is, I think this is so great. What a cool story. It's not like you had this master plan and this 20-page PowerPoint deck and this 5-year financial model all prepared before you put Takeoffs up in the market and took your first dollar of revenue. No, you were like, I'm going to throw this out there and see if I get paid. Oh,
Yeah, just try a line out. Just try a line out like I'm fishing. See what happens.
I love it.
This business pushed me to grow it. You know, you could feel the wind in your sail when you've got the idea that's getting traction, and the business pushed me to keep growing, and I wasn't fighting for it to grow, and that's when you start to know you've got a fish on.
I love that. You know, so many people we've had on this podcast, they really share the same story, and I think it's important for the listeners to hear. You don't have to have this master plan that you've spent 6 months building with all these decks and all this financial modeling. You don't have to do that. You don't have to go to San Francisco first and try to raise cash. No, you can literally, love the metaphor, just throw a line out, see if you get a bite on something, get a little revenue coming in, and then you go, oh, I might have something here. Now I can put some pieces together, you know, later on. Like, just get started, I guess is my point. It's just throw the line in the water. You don't have to have the perfect plan right away. And if you get traction, you get somebody actually writing you a check, then you might know you have something. So I love that. Really great point. So what I hear you saying in summary is, hey, I started a couple of things. I learned a lot right away. And by the way, I pivoted out of those as soon as I knew that it wouldn't work. I didn't stay in them. I didn't invest my life savings. I didn't lose a ton. I said, no, this ain't working. I'm moving on. And then you went to something else. And then when you did start your new thing, you tested it. You threw the line out. You got some revenue going. You made sure you had, quote, proof of concept. And then you went into the deeper piece of raising cash. Love that story. Congratulations on getting where you're at. I love it. Is your mom and dad still alive, by the way?
Yeah, they are. Yep.
Your dad's got to be like, wow. I mean, he's going to be super proud of you, right? I mean, you're dropping out of grade 10, you drop out of school, and boom, here you are. Now you're in San Francisco pitching millionaires and asking them to write checks. I love it.
Yeah, they don't really get it. You know, like, it's so far removed from their whole life. But, you know, yeah, I mean, they're proud. I mean, I don't talk about it a lot, to be honest, with my family. You know, as I said, I'm an introvert, so I honestly don't talk about it. They ask me how things are going, and I say, yeah, it's going good.
That's going good.
I can talk about it here in these forums because this is my work persona now. You know, when I go home, I'm my home persona, and I'm very quiet and reserved.
Gotcha. You still just have the one child, by the way?
Yeah, one child. Got 2 older kids. My wife's got previously from a previous relationship, so they grew up with us, but they're adults now. They're 20 and 19.
Wow. So, whoa, that's another. Okay, first of all, I know from personal experience, being a step parent is not the easiest job in the world. So, okay, you forgot to throw in that while you were going through those other startups and trying companies and doing everything you were doing.
I was raising teenagers.
You're also raising, stepchildren that were teenagers, which is also a giant thing to overcome. Like, wow, okay, now I have even more respect for you. That's awesome. Good for you, Chris. Congratulations. All right, man. Last question. At this stage now in your life, if you had to stop right now and you could call that, by the way, when you stopped school in grade 10, how old were you then? What was your,
15, 16.
If you could stop time right now and call that 16-year-old and tell him anything, give him a little bit of advice, if you could call him, what would you tell him?
Yeah, I would have trust my gut earlier and started things earlier, because I always had ideas. I just didn't think I could do them. And so, I just say, just start more things earlier, because I'm sure some other ideas would have hit it out of the park as well. I just didn't have the balls to start at the time.
Yep. And I totally agree. For all you people listening to this episode right now, driving to work in your shitty ass commute to that job you hate, start now. Do
other
it.
thing I tell myself is, don't tell anyone what you're doing. Just go and do it, because
Yeah.
everyone around you is going to say, don't do that. It's a bit risky, because it is risky, right? But they're coming from a good place, but they're just going to, you don't need that negative talk in your head. Just go and do things. So now I just do things and tell people after the fact. You know?
I love it. That's good. That's good. If you had to define Chris's core purpose in life in a sentence, if you had to just, thinking about that just for a second, taking a deep breath and just going, what is my core purpose? How would you define that for Chris? I know it's a deep one, right?
For me personally, it's about how can I create sustainable, I want to say wealth, but it's not about wealth. It's about how do I look after my family for generations to come.
I like that. Yeah,
and
that's good.
It's not wealth. It's just, I want to make sure that my kids and my kids' kids, my family and my surrounding family is going to be okay after I'm gone.
That's good. But I can imagine, based on your work ethic, it's not like that doesn't mean they get trust funds and don't have to do anything. They're still going to have to work their ass off. I just have a feeling.
Yeah, but they're not going to be destitute, and they're going to, it's just, that's what I think about.
I love it. I love it. Chris, I'm gonna hit stop on our recording here real quick. Hang on for a second before you hang up the call. Thank you so much for being on the Riderflex podcast and sharing your story, man. Super inspirational. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviews. Our show can be heard just about anywhere these days, but you can visit riderflex.com and click on the podcast page to hear all the previous episodes and learn more about the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Contact us at the email address info@riderflex.com or 888-964-5876. Thanks so much for listening, and if you enjoy our show, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes.